realized there are unique, outrageous acts of love that can be committed by me and me alone. And that is the unique purpose, obligation, joy, and responsibility. It's my ability to respond to reality. That's my outrageous act of love.
A planetary awakening in love through a unique self-symphony.
What a privilege it is to be part of this global community.
There's a voice within me that asks, who am I, right? Who am I in all of this?
Each and every one of us has a unique gift to give that we desperately need.
Thank you so much, Krista. Welcome to the heart of the revolution, everyone. It is with deep joy that we are together today in one mountain, many paths. Our mission is what Barbara Marx Hubbard and Dr. Mark Goffney call a planetary awakening in love through unique self-symphonies. We are activating a new humanity, and we are awakening as a new species, Homo Amor, the fulfillment of Homo sapiens. As a church, a synagogue, a mosque, a temple, a zendo, no one is excluded, everyone is included, and we come together to attune to the evolutionary impulse awakening within us. I am Christina Tahel, the co-executive producer, along with Jacqueline Clark, Jamie Long, and Krista Josepha, and we are so delighted to be together with each and every one of you for our 333rd global gathering as Homo Amor. What a privilege it is to be part of this global community where we contribute to humanity's flourishing. On Zoom and Facebook, say hello. Let us know where you're from in the chat box. Do check that your Zoom chat settings say everyone so that we can all hear from you. For those of you on Facebook and YouTube, we will be playing clips today that get us kicked off of those platforms. So do find your way over to Zoom. In the chat box, after we say hello, we use the chats for following the Dharmic conversation, perhaps adding a few words, always in symphony, resonating with the Dharma is a creative and intimate use of the chat box. This Thursday, March 2nd at 7 a.m. Pacific time, 10 a.m. Eastern time, 4 p.m. Central European time, we gather for the 5th live dialogue between Dr. Mark Goffney and Andrew Cohen to explore destiny, karma, and free will. The link to register for the dialogue is in the chat box now. Our mystery school in Europe happens August 21st through the 25th. Save the dates. Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, March 1st, is the last day for the early bird discount. So do sign up in the next few days. We are welcoming new participants for our every other Saturday Return to Eros study group. It's a fantastic way to prepare for the Eros Mystery School. So do join our next sacred study group this coming Saturday on March 4th. Email Jamie Long for more details. Jamie's email is in the chat box now. What to expect today? First, a Dharma recap from myself from last week. Then Dr. Mark Goffney will set our intention. Then David Aton resonates the evolutionary love code that we're working with. Then with Dr. Mark, we will go into our evolutionary sense makings, followed with a move into meditation to enter prayer. And then finally, Krista Josepha will invite us deeper into community, and to close, we bring people on for our goodbyes and a short dance party. I welcome all who are new. We need you. If this is your first time, these teachings do stand on their own, and every week's teaching does build on the prior week's teachings. We encourage you to listen to previous episodes. You will hear unique language. Trust the magic ways the Dharma comes through your understanding. For more information on who we are, please see Part 1, What is One Mountain? What Are We Doing Here? On Medium by Dr. Mark Gothney, edited cordially by Elena Maslova-Levine. The link is in the chat box now. One Mountain, Many Paths is radically committed to telling the new universe story. Now for my recap from last week. Syria and Turkey earthquake, a deeper dive into the mystery of suffering. How do we respond to a problem from hell? People often reject living in a system of value, being part of a larger order of spirit that guides us because of these enormous problems of pain and evil. We understand that suffering can make us more noble, that we need to be freely choosing, that much of suffering ascribed to God is actually human beings making choices. And we understand that there's a larger play than just this lifetime, that if you look across lifetimes, suffering would be understood completely differently. Nonetheless, we cannot use those in any way to deny the tragedy of suffering. We have cross-cultural information based on developmental research that the experience that the world should be fair is an experience that all children experience cross-culturally from the earliest ages. Our notions of fairness are inborn, so that means we have to hold the mystery. We live in a world of outrageous pain, and the response is not what the religions called theosophy, meaning the explanation of why it happens. No.
Let me help you.
Thank you.
Theodicy. So
Theodicy
is theism. How could it be that a good God does crazy shit? So theodicy is the attempt by the religions to explain that. This has been a public service announcement.
Theodicy. So I'll start that. We live in a world of outrageous pain, and the response is not what the religions call theodicy, meaning an explanation of why it happens. No explanation of why it happens works in the face of crushed human bodies, agonizing pain, families buried for days under rubble. Whether it's a New Age theodicy, you attracted it into your life, or religious, it's some form of sin and punishment, or some form of a broader afterlife system. Whatever the form is, there is validity to each one of them. Yet, the only response to outrageous pain, the first response, has to be, we live in a world of outrageous pain, and the only response to outrageous pain is outrageous love. That means two things. One, meet outrageous pain, meaning don't rely on God, don't rely on a theodicy, don't rely on the next lifetime, don't rely on any explanation. You meet outrageous pain. Two, we live in a world of outrageous pain. The only response to outrageous pain is outrageous love, which changes everything. In other words, you can't demand a fair world. You can't be motivated to heal the world, to commit outrageous acts of love, to demand with your activism and your protest that there not be outrageous pain, unless outrageous pain is a violation of something. It shouldn't be that way. If the world is happenstance, an accident, random, meaningless, well, it's a dog-eat-dog world, and people in Turkey and Syria are certainly going to just try and make money and won't follow proper building codes so that buildings will fall down and children will be buried for days. That's just the way it goes. We should be used to that. It's been that way throughout all of history. It shouldn't even move us. We are moved. We are not just moved, we're outraged. We call that pain, outrageous pain. It's a violation of the way reality should be. Why? The universe is a love story. Reality is an intimate universe. Outrageous love, or eros, is the quality of the self-organizing cosmos that is the quality of reality itself. The interior feeling of eros is pleasure, clarified pleasure, the deepest sense of pleasure. So evil is a failure of pleasure. Pleasure is a birthright. It's not an entitlement or privilege. Pleasure is a birthright. We have food, colors, pleasure receptors on our skin. We have natural beauty, taste, touch. Pleasure is an inherent structure of reality, and the evolution of reality is also the revolution of pleasure. With all of that, a prayer for Turkey, a prayer for Syria, and a prayer for our own transformation. Now I invite us to more deeply enter into the holy and sacred spaces of One Mountain, Many Paths. And I turn my word to you, Dr. Mark Gosney.
Much. Thank you so much, Tahilee. That was beautiful and important. And we got the Odyssey. And what a gorgeous and critical Dharma recapitulation. And let me try and get the right angle here so I'm not making everybody crazy. So Tahelee's Dharma recapitulation and we're here and welcome everyone to One Mountain, Many Paths, which is the heart of the revolution. And revolution is a quality of evolution. So let me say that again. We're here in One Mountain, Many Paths. We just heard a stunning Dharma recapitulation from Christina Amelon. We opened the space with a wonderful and subtle and deep space with Krista, where we did practice. We did, if we can borrow the term from Sanskrit, we did the yoga. We did the practice of opening our hearts, the practice of becoming the new human, right? The practice of being, right, together, homo amor. We did the Dharma recapitulation, and we talked about the revolution. Because this is where we are. This is what we're here for, with such tenderness, with such vulnerability, and with such audacity. We're here to be the revolution. And revolution is a quality of evolution. And as evolution continues moving towards its highest possibility, and evolution is not random. That's not a correct reading of the sciences. There were some primitive views in science that dominated the kind of the public space for 150 years. But if you really understand where the sciences are today, you actually understand very deeply that evolution is not random. There's actually an essential context of non-randomness. There's an essential context of direction, of telos. It's very clear that evolution is going somewhere. The undifferentiated cells in an embryo at the beginning of life, not only a human life, but also animal life, then make a decision. Oh, let's get together in particular relational structures. And this is the way we're reading science. We're reading science in the interiors. And one of the new practices of becoming the new human is to understand how to read science in a new way, receiving the best of scientific advancements and then reading the interior of science. So what happens is the undifferentiated cells come together, let's say in a human being, and then they decide, hey, a whole bunch of us, as evolution moves forward, we want to actually have more life and we want to have more wholeness. So this group of cells says, let's get together and become a liver. with all the particular qualities of a liver, which we could talk about the biology of a liver for 20 hours and be wildly fascinated and enraptured. And the rupture from rapture is when you don't realize, oh my God, what a liver cell is. And then a whole group of other cells said, let's get together and let's be a heart. Right? And a whole group of other cells said, let's get together and let's be a pancreas. And then, for example, in the pancreas, when the cells stopped being able to feel their allurement to one another and stopped realizing they're part of this one whole called a pancreas, which is part of a larger whole called the body, right? When cells lost their allurement to the larger whole, so we call that pancreatic cancer, which kills you. That's exactly what cancer is. It's when the cell loses its allurement to the larger whole and experiences itself as a separate self. So we're here in One Mountain, Many Paths, and it's my privilege, my job, my honor, right, to with your permission, to set the intention. What's our intention? Our intention is to be revolution, and revolution is a feature of evolution. And evolution is going somewhere. Just like the cells, the undifferentiated cells come together with a clear telos. They have a direction, they have a purpose. It's not random. They actually want to create a liver, they want to create a heart, they want to create a pancreas, they want to create lymph nodes, they want to create the microbiome. But that's the intention of those undifferentiated cells. And we are part of a larger organismic reality, which has intention, and its intention is not to become Christian or Jewish or Muslim. It's not that kind of intention. It's not an intention which takes away freedom and spontaneity and human participation through human choice in manifesting the best version and the best beautiful, good, true version of the overall intention of cosmos. There's an enormous human spontaneous freedom in the entire story, but there's an intention. And the intention is to fulfill the highest values of cosmos, or the highest cosmos yearns for. Cosmos has an appetite for value. And nothing I'm saying, friends, brothers, sisters, nothing I'm saying is poetic. I'm doing hard science here, right? The interior sciences and the exterior sciences in the great new story of value, which we call cosmorotic humanism. And cosmorotic humanism, a new story of value, a new story of Homo sapien becoming Homo more, becoming a new human, is actually the only response that's actually adequate to meet the metacrisis. The metacrisis of existential risk, which is our own extinction, the death of humanity itself, and the metacrisis of the death of our humanity, right? There's the death of humanity, extinction, then there's the death of our humanity. Human beings are doing fine. They live and exist, but we're no longer human. We're coerced and controlled in a larger system, and our uniqueness and our personhood and our spontaneity and our inward space and our meaning disclosure and the depth and the agony, the ecstasy and beauty of what it means to be a human being is lost, and we become almost automated bots, nanobots on a web, right? Glued right to our screens from the earliest age, controlled by all sorts of prompts and sequences coming at us, unaware that our entire life has been placed on a conveyor belt, controlled by invisible controllers, as in fact the MIT Media Lab has envisioned the unfolding of humanity based on B.F. Skinner. And my friend Zach Stein and I just completed an entire book on this we're about to put out, doing the hard scholarship and showing this to be true. Now, the MIT Media Lab is envisioning creating the world as a Skinner's box in order to avoid existential risk, because they think that's the only way to do it, which is incorrect. But that's the death of our humanity, right? So we're faced with these two threats, the death of our humanity and the death of humanity. How do we respond? So the only way to respond is to actually become the new human, to actually tell a new story of value. That's what happened in the Renaissance. In the Renaissance, when the pandemic of the Black Death swept Europe, when people were dying, bloated all over the streets of Europe and Asia, somewhere between a quarter, a third, or a half of Europe died brutally when there was no even vague understanding of what was going on. Along comes Ficino and Da Vinci. Along come that group of not more than 1,000 people in Italy, many of them based in Florence, resourced by the Medicis and others, who actually said, we can't get to every village. Tragically, we can't even get to every village in Turkey and in Syria because, in Syria, the government's actually not even allowing aid to happen. And in Turkey, the corruption is tragically rampant. And we got to do everything we can to heal Turkey and Syria. But we got to just think even deeper than we got to heal all the individual and help every single individual person we can. Oh my God, of course we do. And we got to just think much more powerful and deep that will affect billions of people. It'll affect the entire future trillions of potential people that could not be born or could be born into a dystopian future. We have to actually change the story. That's how you evolve the source code. We have to participate in evolving the source code of culture and consciousness. And the way I evolve the source code of culture and consciousness is we change the story, because at the very core of the source code is story, right? And when you change the story, you change the vector of the entire thing. But we can't change it as, oh, let's make up a new story, right? I'm madly in love with my dear friend, Barbara Marx Hubbard, right? My deep evolutionary homemate who I miss deeply. We loved each other deeply and worked together deeply. And she was and is my homemate in this evolutionary way. And she passed a bunch of years ago, and she founded together One Mountain, Many Paths. And the next few weeks, we're going to be playing some clips from Barbara, right? Again, just to kind of bring her into the space, and she's never not with us. So Barbara would say, let's declare a new story. And then I would laugh and I'd say, Barbara, yes, let's declare a new story and let's validate it. Let's actually validate a new story, not just declare it. Let's validate it in the deepest structures of the interior and exterior sciences. That's what we're doing here at One Mountain, right? And that's the revolution. The revolution is to tell a new story. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the Enlightenment. Let me just do a little show of hands in the chat box. How many people have studied the Enlightenment, that beautiful period in which, it's really the 18th century, the 1700s, in which, right, all of reality changed, right? The modernity was born. So in the Enlightenment, right, there was a new form that was introduced, and it was called the novel, Novel, right? The novel. What's the novel? So the novel is, what's the novel? The novel is the story. Voltaire, right? Diderot, Montesquieu, right? They all write, right? They write novels, right? Stories, new stories, because they understand they've got to tell a new story. So we're telling a new validated story. And of course, what do we mean by validated? So in every discipline has its own validity test. So there are validity tests for science, exterior science, and there are validity tests for interior science, right? Every discipline has its own form of validation. And my dear friend, who I've never met, but I called once, we tried to meet at the University of Berlin. It didn't quite work. But Habermas, right, talks about this notion that every value sphere has its own validity tests, right? So sometimes we measure things and other times we don't. Other times we have to go into and find our feeling and get to know our feeling and check the nature of the feeling. So if I want to know, am I in love, right? So I don't measure my dopamine release. That's not going to help. I've got to actually go in and actually know myself, know my interior, be able to sit in my interior, be able to listen to my interior, be able to talk to people who can help reflect back to me and find wisdom. And so there's always validity tests. So we integrate the validated insights at the leading edge of wisdom of all the great disciplines across space and time, meaning pre-modern, modern, and postmodern. We weave them together into a new story of value that you can tell to 50 truck drivers any place in the world. I'm gonna tell you something beautiful. I just literally a second before this moment, I just got a beautiful text from a new friend of mine, a beautiful man named Paul Chek, which I just had the privilege of doing a podcast with. I don't know, Krista, maybe we can put that in the chat box. But we had a wonderful time, and Paul's a beautiful guy. So he just wrote me just literally a second ago. He said, I just got this text from a student. And we had this beautiful podcast, and people have been writing in saying to Paul, which is like crazy beautiful. They said, Paul, this is like the best public conversation you've ever done. This was gorgeous. And it was really because Paul and I were loving each other, and we just enjoyed loving each other. And it was just really a beautiful moment. And so Paul literally just texted me and he said, I just got this text from a student of mine that's a full-time miner. He lives in his truck and spends most of his days digging gemstones out of the earth. right? He's a very cool guy and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And then he said, thought you'd enjoy seeing what he shared. He shared, I just listened to your podcast with Mark Goffney. I've been listening to him for a while at One Mountain. I really appreciate what you guys are putting out into the world. Thanks for what you're doing. Big hug to Mark and big hug to One Mountain. So thank you. Thank you, right? In other words, here's this beautiful guy who's a miner, right? Who's tracking us here on One Mountain. So I don't know your name, Mr. Miner, but thank you. And we're madly honored for you to be with us. And so we need to be able to share a story with our miner friend, right? We need to be able to share a story, right, with anyone in the world, whether it's the depth of China, whether it's in other parts of Asia Minor, whether it's in Bengal, India, whether it's in Kashmir, whether it's in South America. This cannot be some, you know, bullshit, new age, human potential movement, America thing coming out of San Francisco. Not going to happen, which is why we have two major centers. One of them is in Europe and Belgium, and the other is here in Vermont. And, you know, I look forward to opening centers in the Far East, which is absolutely critical. We absolutely need a center in China, like utterly critical, because we need to tell a new story of value that integrates the validated insights across space and time. Not an American story we're foisting on the world, but actually that which emerges from the deepest wisdom. That's the revolution of today. The revolution of today, right, is telling this new story. Does everyone get that? That's the revolution of today, not San Francisco foisted on the world, but actually integrating the deepest validated insight, weaving them together into a new fabric of value, right? Right. We got it. You know, blessings to America. By the way, I love America, and I'm an American patriot, meaning I believe in the American dream. And I think America has great gifts to give to the world. And I think America has given great gifts to the world. So I'm not part of the kind of progressive bash America crowd, but nor am I part of the conservative crowd in America, which is America right or wrong, right? And the rest of the world be damned, which is some implicit position. No. Right? We're citizens of the world. We're citizens of the galaxy. And America is a beautiful instrument in the unique self symphony, right? And so blessings, God bless America. And God bless France, and God bless Chile, and let China become what it could become. And let's integrate not the horror of Mao, but the greatness of Confucius and the greatness of Lao Tzu and the greatness of, right, of the great Chinese masters and the greatness of Russian literature in the 19th century. So let's put this together. We're putting together this new story, and that new story at this moment in history, that integration, which never was possible before. That integration of all these validated wisdom streams, bringing them together, weaving them together in a global story of value, which is the only way we can respond to the meta crisis. Because the meta crisis is global challenges that can take us down, the death of humanity and the death of our humanity, two forms of existential risk. We can only respond to that with global coordination. And global coordination only comes from global resonance and global coherence. And global resonance and coherence only comes from global intimacy. And that right now we have a global intimacy disorder, and we can only create global intimacy by a shared story of value, right? That's what it means to have intimacy. It's a shared story of value, which generates a shared identity in the context of our diversity. So revolution. So this revolution is part of evolution, right? Evolution always evolves and then it jumps. What Stephen Jay Gould called punctuated equilibria, right? It jumps, there's a revolution. Something transforms that changes the whole system. There's what they call in systems theory, a minor fluctuation point that lifts the whole system, which is far from equilibrium, to an entirely new level of coherence. Yeah, beautiful, right? Very important systems theory. See Urban Laszlo's 1972 book, the most important book on systems theory, which is really his epic kind of, you know, work, right? A minor fluctuation point in the system, seemingly on the fringes, jumps the entire system when it's far from equilibrium, which is where we are today, to an entirely new level of coherence and order, meaning joy, meaning possibility, meaning love, meaning eros, meaning the ability to transform suffering. And One Mountain, Many Paths is a minor fluctuation point in the system, meaning we're not operating at the very center with, you know, on NBC or CBS or, you know, television China or television Europe or television South America, right? We're a band of outrageous lovers. Right? We're a band of revolutionaries. We've come together. We're madly committed. We're taking responsibility for the whole thing, right? We're completely humble, right? We feel she's moving through us, We make mistakes. Of course, we make mistakes. We're imperfect, we're fallible, but we're making mistakes in the right direction. Who can feel that? We make mistakes, but we're making mistakes in the right direction. Who can feel that? Can anyone feel that? Can we feel it together? We're making mistakes. Of course, we're making mistakes. We're human. We're fallible. Right? We're anti-guru. The only guru is the community together. We're making mistakes in the right direction. And we're telling the new story. We're being the revolution, because that's how evolution evolves. We are being the minor fluctuation, but we're going to tell this new story of value. And we're going to do it not the easy way. We're not taking the easy path. We're not going to declare it. We're going to do crazy deep research, like the deepest of the deep, right? Footnote it out the kazoo. I just sent my dear friend Jeffrey, who I hope is here, right? Jeffrey Maliki, who's working with us and doing fantastic editing. And we did actually at the beginning of that Paul Chek dialogue, I think there's a little clip or something like that that they show with Paul and I talking about Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum. So for that 9-minute clip, which some of you may or may not have seen, for that 9-minute clip, right, I wrote 110,000 words. I want to kind of get that straight. I wrote 110,000 words with 1,000 footnotes of primary sources for that 9-minute clip, meaning we're not screaming from a soapbox and making shit up and being inaccurate and being kind of wildly irresponsible. We're being nuanced and careful and powerful and strong and fearless, even when we're afraid. People tell you they're fearless, but not afraid. I'm afraid of people who are fearless and not afraid. I'm afraid all the time. And I walk through that fear, and we walk through that fear. That's courage. Courage is not to be afraid, right? And someone who really can feel the entire system, a dear beloved friend of mine wrote me this week. She said, I'm shuddering because I can feel something's coming, right? So to be alive is to feel the whole system. To be afraid. And then we have courage. Courage means to take heart in the original language. Cour, C-O-U-E-R, take heart. We walk through fearlessly, even as we're afraid. We tremble, but we tremble with joy, and we hold hands together, right? Right? Oh my God, can you feel that, friends? Can you feel that, friends? That's the revolution. So a feature of evolution is revolution. And the revolution at this moment in time is to tell the new story. There's no single human act today that can actually evolve the source code and avert and transform suffering more than telling the new story of value, downloading it, organizing it, writing it up. It takes years, and then downloading it into the very source code of culture. And for that, we need resources. And I want to just, if I can, and I apologize for this next sentence, but it's an insincere apology. And then I'm going to turn to David, and we're going to go for the code. And we've got like we have a huge week this week. But I want to just thank particularly, and I didn't ask her permission, but I'm going to do it anyways. I apologize, right? So stay close to us in the chat box. Stay close, friends, right? I want to thank Jacqueline, right? And Jacqueline, who's this brilliant weaver and brilliant, wondrous holder, in One Mountain, and does so much. I had mentioned a little while ago this possibility of, people at a particular moment in life when someone passes or something happens where there's we might call a liquidity event, right? There's a possibility of funding that actually would make a big difference. And so Jacqueline just had a tragic and sad event in her life, which is her father passed. And there was this moment where she could actually step forward and actually, help, this revolution move forward. And we were actually at a particular time in our budget, which was greatly challenged. We actually are still at that time. And she came through and just kind of, in this outrageous act of love, right, just kind of stepped forward. And I want to just really honor that. And Christina Amlon's done that for the last, 4 years. And Claire Molinero has done that, and right down the list. Right. But in other words, and I try and do that. I've done that, myself a bunch of times. And a whole list of people have done it. And John Mackey's done it. And right. But I want to just in this moment, I'm thanking just this moment, Jacqueline, right, for that outrageous act of love. And right, like, wow. Right. So I want just to invite anyone, if you can help, right, through your time, through your energy. And your time is infinitely valuable. It's not less valuable than funds. It's infinitely valuable. And if you can fund with your time or fund with, more classical monetary resources, so find us. You can find Krista directly, right, and make it happen, right? No one here is getting wealthy. I don't take a salary. Zach doesn't take a salary. The people that do take salaries take, $3,000 a month or something like that, right? So this is a revolution. So if you can step forth and resource the revolution, it makes all of the difference. But we are the revolution, And we are that unique feature of evolution, which is revolution, which is the punctuated equilibria, the jump to a higher level. We are that jump to a higher level, right? You know, a friend of mine, a beautiful man, wrote me the other day, and I had left a message. He said, Mark, you're like completely exhausted. He said, why are you completely exhausted? You know, I'm a little exhausted, right? Which is okay, because we're not quite resourced to the level we need to be, but I'm delighted to be exhausted, right? I am exhausted in mad love with reality. So if you're willing to be exhausted with me, right? If you get exhausted, you won't exhaust yourself, right? You get energy by pouring into reality, by being an outrageous lover. So we're going to talk today about outrageous love and what that means. And we're going to try and move the story of value forward. So I'm going to turn to David, right, to read the code. And I just, with permission, just one more small thing. What we do at the beginning here, when we set the intention, that's not extra. It's actually why we come together. That is called in the interior sciences practice to reset what's called kavanah, K-A-V-V-A-N-A-H, kavanah, K-A, maybe someone grab it in the chat box, kavanah, K-A-V-V-A-N-A-H, kavanah. Maybe someone's going to catch it for me. Kavanah, thank you. And kavanah means, the word means, right, to when you have an arrow and you intend, right, the arrow, the intention of where to be shooting that arrow, that's called kavanah. So setting my intention is everything. I had a brief conversation with a friend of Barbara's before she died, Lynn McTaggart, who did an enormous amount of work around intention and the scientific studies around intention. Intention changes reality. That's actually true. When you set your intention clearly and you're unshakable, right? Then you change reality. You know, last night, just to give you an example, I was reading a book. Here, I'll show it to you. Whenever I get a minute to read, I read kind of, you know, wherever I can. So I was reading this book last night by Thomas Ricks, you know, called First Principles. And it's about the relationship between the Greco-Roman world and the founding fathers of the United States. And there's an essay on George Washington. And everyone said that George Washington was, you know, not particularly schooled. He wasn't schooled, didn't read, right? None of that. So what was George Washington's power? Intention, right? He would set an intention, and like the great Roman Cato, Cato's virtue was, once he set an intention with full integrity, he was in, and he would not veer, he would not shift. He would do anything he needed to do to get to that goal. So we have an intention here. We're setting our intention. Our intention is the evolution of love. Our intention is to respond to the meta crisis by telling a new story of value. And by being that new story of value, our intention is the crossing. We're going to cross to the other side and become homo amor. So who's willing to cross to the other side? Right? Are we willing? Are we willing? Hey, are we willing, friends, to play a larger game? Are we willing? Who's willing? Who's willing? If you're willing, give us a yes, right? Let's say yes, right? We are the yes people, right? The great yes of the Big Bang. That yes echoes in our hearts and bodies quite literally. The Big Bang scientifically literally lives in us. Are we ready to play a larger game? And are we excited about this? We're excited about this. And we're excited about this. And are we ready to participate together in the evolution of love? Right? We are. We are. And we come together every week, and an essential part of our practice is to reset. We press reset every week. That's why we come together. We add to the story of value. We deepen a number of dimensions, but that's almost secondary. Right? We come together to actually set intention, to press reset. And pressing reset is called spiritual practice. It's called exercise, right? It's called yoga, right? You can't just have the new story of value, the Dharma, you need the yoga. So coming together and setting intention, that's our yoga, right? Oh my God, right? Right? Oh my God, right? Like, oh my God, right? Like, wow. Wow. David, crazy great to be with you, David, right? And I'm not going to do does David look like Mr. Rogers? Right? I'm not, he's got a little bit of Mr. Rogers going on there, right? Right? He's beautiful, David, right? Right? Oh my God, read us the code and resonate the code and take us inside, man.
Thanks, Mark. Great to be here. And yeah, setting intention is so beautiful. And what I love being here is when we set the intention from a deep place, the largest possible intention, it's actually energizing. So it helps me to recover from exhaustion. just to be able to be in that spirit of aliveness and eros. So friends, here we are in a revolution. And, I just want to mention something. Last week, we hosted an activist group in our house here. It was called the Thrive Street Choir. And we come together to sing songs to be able to go out in the streets and at some point do protests. And we were just hosting it here, but I was participating too. And I noticed that there's some perspectives in the space of kind of like, either burn it all down or it's already burning. And so we just sort of sing our way to the grave. And something about being activists here at One Mountain is that it's actually an evolutionary activism. So we're not trying to, increase the polarization and oppose another group. We're actually trying to be, activists for evolution, and such an enlivening place to be. So here we are as evolutionary activists, and here's the code to resonate our way in today. What is the character of the outrageous lover? And why do we call it outrageous love and not unlimited love? Because outrageous love is animated by both outrage and love. Outrage and love come together in a higher synergy of sacred activism. The outrageous lover is filled with pure joy, and yet the purity of the outrageous lover is always tinged with paradox. It is a joy and paradox that merge outrage and love into a higher union of outrageous love. I'll just do it one more time. What is the character of the outrageous lover? And why do we call it outrageous love and not unlimited love? Because outrageous love is animated by outrage and love. Outrage and love come together in a higher synergy of sacred activism. The outrageous lover is filled with pure joy, and yet the purity of the outrageous lover is always tinged with paradox. It is joy and paradox that merge outrage and love into the higher union of outrageous love. With love, I turn my word to you, beloved Dr. Mark.
Thank you so much. So let's dive in, and we're going to finish today with prayer, like we always do. But this is a big, huge week. Okay, so here we go. We've set our intention. Our intention is telling the new story of value. It's very easy to scream on a soapbox and polarize. Doesn't take much. And we need some people screaming on soapboxes, and that's good. But that's not going to take us home. What's going to take us home is the Da Vinci move, is telling the new story of value, doing the hard work of gathering the validated insights, weaving them into a story, downloading them into culture as visionaries. It's a Darwin Freud level move. In the 20th century, we don't remember much, but we remember Marx and Freud and Darwin and Einstein, because those four people, for better and worse, changed the source code. We've got to change the source code. That's what we're here to do. So I want to focus today on one, with your permission, everyone, on one dimension of this new story of value, which is encoded in the sentence that we've been looking at basically the last 3 or 4 weeks. We're in this conversation around outrageous love. And we've talked about in some real depth 3 or 4 weeks ago, and you can look up the earlier episodes of One Mountain. It wasn't last week or the week before, it was 3 weeks ago and 4 weeks ago. We talked in great depth about the 10 principles of outrageous love and what outrageous love means. And outrageous love, not as just human love, which is very beautiful kind of, but it's in its contracted form. Human love as an expression of cultural mores, human love as a drive to get some security or status to avoid what we feel is the emptiness. Human love as this narrow human trait in which I love one person and that's the end of my love list. And I want that person to give me everything and I want to give them everything. And if those 2 or 3 relationships don't work, I'm shattered. But that's ordinary love. And ordinary love is a strategy of the ego. Outrageous love, when human love participates in the very current of cosmos, which is called eros, that's outrageous love. When human love participates in the very current of cosmos itself, That's called eros. That's called outrageous love. So we live in a world of outrageous pain. The only response to outrageous pain is outrageous love. And we spend the last 2 weeks talking about what that means. The only response to outrageous pain is outrageous love. That's the last 2 weeks. And anyone who wants to go deeply into that, take a look at on the One Mountain site last week and the week before. What I want to do now is focus on something else. I want to focus on the word outrageous, with your permission. What is this thing we're calling outrageous love? Why is it outrageous? And I've shared with people before, with a lot of love and honor from my friend, John Mackey. John and I had and I said this on stage at the Success 3.0 conference we did a bunch of years back. And so I said it publicly, and John and I laughed about it. So I wouldn't repeat it if it was only a private conversation. So John wrote me once and he said, and John was our board chair at the center. And John's a grocer, by the way. He started a company called Whole Foods, which he's since left. He's starting a new company. We built this huge and beautiful gift to the United States in terms of revisioning how we eat, called Whole Foods. So John wrote me a text one day, or a note, and he said, Mark, outrageous is troublesome. We can't call it outrageous. Let's call it, maybe unlimited love. So we don't have that notion of outrage, which has some anger in it, and it's just, a little bit outrageous. Let's go for unlimited love. So, I wrote John a funny response, and we had a long talk about it. And I want to just share a little bit with you. Why is it outrageous love? Because it's a very important piece of this new story of value. So first off, just check into your body. And our bodies are wise, right? The book of Job, chapter 19 from the classical Hebrew text. And it says, "Mipsari echazeh Eloha." Through my body, I vision spirit. So my body is wise. And anyone who's done deep practice in the body knows. The body has profound wisdom. And the body holds a kind of cellular wisdom. So my body's wise. So stay with me for a second. So just in your body, just do a little experiment for a second, right? So when we say we live in a world of outrageous pain, the only response is outrageous love. Okay. What if we say we live in a world of unlimited pain? The only response is unlimited love. Does it do the same thing? It doesn't. The word outrageous and unlimited are different words, and they evoke something different in our body. Who gets that? Just quick look at the chat box. Who gets that just in your body in a second? It's a different word, right? So the word, right, there's something about the word outrageous which is itself outrageous. Now, in the original lineage text of the Song of Solomon, the text reads, Azah kimavet ahava. Love is as outrageous as death. Wow. Azah, and feel the word in your body, azah, right? Azah, right? Azah. So azah is outrageous. And just feel that outrageous for a second. Love is as outrageous as death. So the experience of death changes everything. We understand that. Now, this is not a talk on death, and how we relate to death is unimaginably important. And it's very clear based on the validated insights that we've gathered in the last 200 years that death is not the end of the story, that death is a night between 2 days, that there's a continuity of consciousness after death. I'm not going to talk about that now. I've had myself direct experiences of deep communion with someone who's passed, where that communion wasn't clearly not a hallucination, but was more real than anything I've ever experienced. It's not just my personal experience, but actually there's a direct knowing. You can actually access that knowing in the body. And the body does know, right? You can't separate the body, the embodiment, from the mind. The mind, right? While we're in our bodies, the mind and the entire brain, right? And the heart, and actually all of the cells are actually non-locally connected. And so the body actually has wisdom. Now, how do you access the wisdom of the body? How do you clarify the wisdom of the body? Right? Is a conversation which is not our conversation right now. But the body actually has wisdom, right? For my body, I vision spirit is not wrong. Almost any action that you have to decide whether to take, you can go to your mind to check it. You can go to your heart to check it, but you can also go to your body. And when you learn to listen to the wisdom of the body actually tells you things. Now, it's not easy to listen to the wisdom of the body, and the body sometimes makes short-term demands. So I need to get into the deeper wisdom of the body. Now, the wisdom of the body that likes 5 Baby Ruth bars is pseudo-eros. The wisdom of the body that yearns and is nourished by great food and knows well, right, that I've got to sit in that great food and actually is attracted to a deeper way of eating. That's different wisdom. And you actually can tell in your body, for example, before any sexual encounter, you go deep into your body actually knows whether this is an ethical encounter. It's a very deep idea, but that's a different conversation. Let's just find it right now. I just find in your body the distinction between outrageous and unlimited. And words play in the body. Right? The body listens to words. That's how language works. Right? Language, right, expresses itself in mind and heart and body. And language can't emerge without a relationship to all three. But let's bracket all that. Let's just stay with the word outrageous. Everyone in outrageous now? Outrageous. We live in a world of outrageous pain, right? The only response is outrageous love. So first, right, in the word outrageous, there's this dimension of rage. And John actually said to me, he said, I don't like this dimension of rage, but you actually need the dimension of rage. The dimension of rage matters. It's not all about outrageous, but it's a dimension. You actually have to be willing to get mad. You got to be willing to get angry, because anger is a form of arousal. Now, there's a form of anger, which is egoic, self-absorbed, narcissistic, superficial. There's a form of anger, which is pseudo-eros, where I can't find the fullness of who I am. So I get angry to give myself a quick hit of pseudo-eros, kind of like taking a quick hit of cocaine, right? Or too many hits of whiskey, or sexing that I don't really want to be doing, or the 4th or 5th Baby Ruth bar, right? So there's a dimension of anger, which is an addictive acting out, a form of pseudo-eros. But there's another form of anger, of sacred outrage, of holy outrage. Okay, everyone feel that? There's a form of anger, which is the anger of the prophet. And in one text in the 3rd century, in Aramaic, the text talks about reticha deoraita, the holy outrage of the prophet. And the holy outrage of the prophet doesn't lead me to kill or to massacre. It leads me to transform reality. And it leads me to stand on the abyss of darkness and say, it's got to be more. It's got to be better. I take responsibility for transformation. I take responsibility for making the world at a different place than it is now. But I can't feel that unless I'm willing to be outraged. And if I'm not willing to be outraged, then I can't actually begin to take action. So, oh, right. Yeah, Turkey, what happened? What happened, right? You don't even have time to be outraged. You watch the news quickly. You're not willing to sit in the outrage. Now, let's see a clip for a second. I want to see a clip if we can, just for a second. It's from Howard Beale. It's one of my favorite clips from a movie 25 years ago where a television commentator is fired, and they give him one more talk on the air. And for the first time, he speaks the truth. And it's a prophetic moment. That notion of prophecy, reticha deoraita, the holy outrage, is actually captured in this clip. And it's part of this notion of outrageous love. Outrageous love has to include in it holy outrage. It's not all of the word outrageous, but it's a dimension. And I want to unpack with you a couple of dimensions today. So let's take a look at that clip. Christina Amlon, thank you so much for bringing us inside. Let's just kind of watch it carefully, right? This is a scene of prophecy. And sometimes the prophet doesn't even know that they're prophesying. And as this man begins to speak all over the world, everyone stops and they begin to listen to him. Because real prophecy actually evokes our heart and our mind and our body. So let's take a look.
Have ever had. The 13 nations of OPEC have still not been able to decide by how much to increase the price of oil. Saudi Arabia...
How much time we got?
Yesterday, for further consultations with his government, he returned to the Vienna... This is Ed Fletcher in Vienna.
Take 2, Q Howard. I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. It's a depression. Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter. Punks are running wild in the street, and there's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do, and there's no end to it. We know the air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. We sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy. It's like everything everywhere is going crazy, so we don't go out anymore. We sit in the house, and slowly the world we're living in is getting smaller, and all we say is, please, at least leave us alone in our living rooms. Let me have my toaster and my TV and my steel-belted radios, and I won't say anything. Just leave us alone. Well, I'm not going to leave you alone. I want you to get mad. I don't want you to protest. I don't want you to riot. I don't want you to write to your congressman because I wouldn't know what to tell you to write. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation and the Russians and the crime in the street. All I know is that first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being. God damn it. My life has value. So, I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. I want you to get up right now. Get up, go to your windows, open them, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. Things have got to change.
How many stations does this go out?
You've got to get mad.
67.
Say,
I know it goes to Louisville and Atlanta.
I'm not going to take this anymore. Then we'll figure out what to do about the depression and the inflation and the oil crisis. But first, get up out of your chairs, open the window, stick your head out and yell, and say, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
Who are you talking to, Herb?
CGG, Atlanta.
Are they yelling in Atlanta, Herb?
Are they yelling in Atlanta, Ted?
But first, you've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
They're yelling in Baton Rouge.
Get up, get up, get up out of your chair.
Son of a bitch! We struck the mother load!
Stick your head out of the window, open it, and stick your head out and keep yelling and yell, I'm as mad as hell. I'm not going to take this anymore. Just get up from your chairs right now. Go to
Where
the
you
window.
going? I don't want to see if anybody's
Go
yelling.
to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell and keep yelling. I'm mad as hell! I'm not going to take this anymore!
I'm mad as hell! I'm not gonna take it anymore! I'm mad as hell! I'm not gonna take it anymore!
I'm mad as hell! I'm not going to take it anymore!
I'm mad as hell and I'm not gonna take it anymore!
I'm mad as hell!
So if you're willing for 1 second, go to the chat box. If you're willing, it's not so easy to access. This is not a spectator sport. Who's willing to do it? Right? I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. That's the practice. That's the first practice of outrageous. I'm actually willing to get mad. Who's willing to do it? Not so easy to do, is it? I'm mad. It's not polite. It's not new age, not sweet. Right? It's not all sweetness and light, writes Rudolf Otto, right? In his great book, The Idea of the Holy, the Numinous, includes outrage, right? I'm mad as hell. Who's willing to do it? Let go of the ego, let go of the smallness, right? I am the prophet, right? I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore, right? I'm mad as hell, right? I am the prophet. I'm looking at what is, and it can't be this way. I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore, right? It takes something, and you're sitting by your chat box, you're saying, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. That's too much.
he's asking too much. I can do the sweet thing, right? I can do the kind of participate in the evolution of love thing, but this is too much. I can't do this. I can't access that, right? I'm mad as hell. I am mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore. Who's willing to come to the keyboard? Who's willing to step in? Who's willing to step in just for a minute? Actually take responsibility. Your rage is the beginning of outrageous love, right? But you got to first access the rage. If you can't access the rage, that's not the end of it. It's not the end of the story. It's not the end, but you can't skip this step. If you're not willing to be mad as hell, you're not going to change the thing, right? In anything, including myself. I'm mad as hell. And my rage matters and it counts. It's not unlimited love, but I get unlimited love. Unlimited love is tepid and flaccid, right? And boring, right? And ordinary, right? And it's just talking about something we don't even know what it is. It doesn't jump out of our body. I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take this anymore. Now, what's the scene about? Friends, everybody. What's the scene? I'm outraged. What's the scene about? The scene's an incredible scene, right? It's an incredible scene. This Howard Beale has been fired, right? He's been fired. And he's devolving. He's going through an episode, which psychology is defined as a psychotic episode because psychology doesn't know what to do with as mad as hell. You go to the therapist and they prescribe you a set of drugs, right? Which actually pharmacologically can often destroy you, right? Because psychology doesn't know how to hold the root of the sacred that's at the core of a lot of psychotic episodes. And actually, there's no great virtue in being well adjusted in a maladjusted society, right? If you're sane, if you think you're perfectly sane and perfectly normal in an insane society, well, then there's something wrong with you. And there's something wrong with all of us if we don't actually get as mad as hell. Okay, I've got to be stay in control and I've got to be doing the win-lose metrics game and I got to show up in a particular way and everyone's got to think about me in a particular way and I'm at a cocktail party and I need people to like me and I need to have a certain kind of social circle, right? And I got to stay appropriate here because otherwise I won't survive. I'll be cast out by the tribe. No, it's insane. So get mad. And the beginning of outrageous love is the willing heart that says, I'm willing to be mad as hell. Now, again, it's not surface anger. It's not the anger of losing your temper in a show of narcissism, right? It's not destructive anger, right? It's not abusive anger. It's none of those things. It's not any of those. That's not what we're talking about. Those are all pseudo eros. Everyone get that distinction? Abusive anger, destructive anger. That's all pseudo eros. Narcissistic anger, pseudo eros. But there's an eros of anger. And actually the original lineage word for anger is chema, C-H-E-M-A-H, which derives from the two-letter root in the original Hebrew and Aramaic, chom, and chom means love. So love and chema means outrageous anger. So the actual original word in the lineage text is outrage, and love is the same word. Wow, right? And the Song of Solomon writes, Azak kamavet ahava, love is as outrageous as death. So feel that sense of outrage. And the sense of outrage comes from the knowing it's not supposed to be this way. Not supposed to be this way. It can't be this way. It's not okay. Now, notice in the clip, did everyone notice in the clip? If you notice in the clip, they give him the microphone as this kind of last moment to usher him out. And all of a sudden he starts talking and people start listening. And the woman, I think it's Faye Dunaway, right? Who's this kind of classical win-lose metrics woman. She's a tragic figure in the movie. She senses a commodified opportunity. What she wants to do is she wants to commodify his rage and use it to get more ratings. It's this cynical moment. This commodify that, let's grab his rage, let's commodify it. That happens a lot to spirituality, right? It's seized and commodified and sold. So we're not trying to commodify something here, right? Outrageous love is rooted in outrage, and that outrage has to be pure. Now, I get it. I get it, friends. I get it. You can't live in outrage all the time. Of course you can't. That's not the end of the story. It's the beginning of the story. You can't walk around outraged in a sense or in a way that burns your gut and causes you to ulcerate your soul. But you've got to begin an outrage. The prophet begins an outrage. And we have to be prophets. We have to speak prophecy. We need new prophets. But new prophets means we've got to be willing to see around the corner. We've got to be willing to not just see around the corner and speak truth to power and turn over the money carts in the temple. That's not enough. We have to hold out a cogent and coherent and compelling vision of what the new possibility is. What is the new possible human? If we can't articulate in our body and in ourselves the new possible human, right? What the fulfillment of Homo sapien looks like, the fulfillment of Homo sapien, which is Homo Amor. If I can't do that, then the outrage destroys me. So I begin with outrage. I'm outraged. It's not okay. I refuse to look away. Robert J. Lipton wrote a book called Facing Apocalypse. I refuse to look away. I refuse to be anesthetized. Right? I refuse to be deadened. I refuse to become Pink Floyd 30 years ago, comfortably numb. I want the pleasure of outrage. And can I just share with you something personal, if I can, if that's okay? You know, I get a certain amount of critique for, you know, getting too excited. Why am I not doing this kind of, you know, dispassionate podcast where you're kind of talking like this and explaining and why is Goffney getting excited? That's evangelical. Really? Really? I mean, are we not aroused by outrageous pain? Are we dispassionate in talking about outrageous pain? Right? Has passion become the ultimate sin? Do we only associate passion with its pathologies and not with its potency? We don't need to. We live in a passionate universe. When we say the universe is a love story, we mean it's a passionate universe. And it's only my willingness to actually reclaim my passion. And my passion involves my outrage. I've got to begin with outrage. I'm outraged by the way it is. And I'm not willing to be, how did Aldous Huxley write it? I'm not willing to be anesthetized by what he called soma. And so much of religion, whether it's the New Age version or the old version, is soma. Let's anesthetize us. And by the way, conspiracy theorists can be soma also. I just get anesthetized by my screaming all the time at what's wrong, but I actually don't take myself seriously enough to take my seat at the table to actually get involved in making it right. And so let's take our seat at the table. And this is a phrase I've been using for the last few years, but I forgot about. And then I started a beautiful set of conversations with a dear friend. And that phrase came back in my mind. And we've been talking about what it means to take your seat at the table. So, you know, from that conversation, I bring that to all of us, right? We're taking our seat at the table, and meaning we're willing to get outraged, but then we can't stop at outrage. If you stop at outrage, it destroys you, right? I've got to be willing to actually step into love, not just love, but outrageous love. And outrageous love is not ordinary love. Outrageous love feels different. It looks different. It tastes different. Outrageous love meaning I'm willing to put it all on the line. I'm willing to stop thinking through my trauma pattern. And I'm willing to stop thinking through my obsessive self-involvement, even though I should be self-involved and I should be working on my transformation. I should do everything for my family, my son, my brother, my daughter, my sister, right? But my family's got to get bigger. Our love lists are too short. So I've got to become an outrageous lover. And I've got to love myself, but outrageously. And when you love yourself outrageously, you can break the trauma pattern. And when I love you outrageously, I can break you through the trauma pattern if we're willing to stay in. Stay in. Stay in. Don't leave the table. I'm willing to stay in. I'm not leaving the table. No matter what happens, I'm here at the table. We're going to work it through. We're going to hold hands. And we're going to love outrageously. And to love outrageously is to love beyond your love lists and to love in a deeper, wider way, right? And to be willing to give all of yourself. And I want to just, if I can, I'm looking at the time, it's 2:12. So I want to just 2 more things and we're going to go to prayer. Okay. So we're willing to, I want to read you something for a second. Okay. This is a story. And this is January 2nd, 2007. And I'm reading from, a text that tells the story, Wesley Autry. True story. It's a 50-year-old American black man, a construction worker. He's a Navy veteran. He's waiting for a subway train in Manhattan. His 2 daughters, it's about 12:45 a.m. And Autry notices a young man. The man's name turns out to be Cameron Holopeter. He's about 20. He's having a seizure. And Cameron kind of gets to his feet and but he stumbles from the platform onto the tracks between 2 rails. Autry sees the light of an approaching train and he makes an instantaneous decision, outrageous love. He jumps onto the tracks thinking he'd have time to drag Holopeter away. He then realizes in an instant that's impossible. So he covers Holopeter's body with his own and presses Holopeter and himself down into a drainage ditch that's about a foot deep in the tracks. Right? The train operator tries to stop. The brakes screech. But by the time he could stop the train, 5 cars had passed over the 2 men. It was the closest of close calls. The cars were so close to Autry that they smudged grease on his blue knit cap. Autry hears outlookers screaming, and he yells back, "We're okay down here, but I got 2 daughters up there on the track. Let them know their father's okay." And then he hears cries of wonder and applause from the bystanders. Holopeter, who was a student at the New York Film Academy, is taken to the hospital, but he just had bumps and bruises. Autry didn't need medical help. He said nothing's wrong. And when the New York Times interviewed him, Autry said, I don't think I did something spectacular. I just saw someone who needed help. And I did what I felt was right. And then he said, I used to be a construction worker, so I'm good at working in confined spaces. And it looks, I had a sense that this might work. Wow. Right? Wow. And he became, of course, a celebrity overnight, and gifts poured in and scholarships and, college tuition for his kids and season tickets to the New Jersey Nets. And, he was named a CNN hero and all of that. And he was a guest in Congress of the United States and given a standing ovation. But why? Because he knew something. He was outrageous. He knew in that moment that there was something to be done. And it didn't make sense, and he didn't know the man, and he didn't have time to think, but he actually embodied something that lives in us that's true, which is we're actually connected. We're actually part of the one heart, and we're part of the one eros, and we're part of the one mind. We're unique and distinct and individuated and wildly valuable, irreducibly unique parts, but we're part of. We're not separate from. And that separateness is an optical delusion of consciousness, as Albert Einstein correctly wrote. And he knew in that one moment, the one heart. And that jumping in was true. And it was good. And it was beautiful. And he was named a hero because he spoke a truth that everyone knew, but he lived into it. See, we think our outrageous love is only for our family. It's only for my son or my daughter or my brother or my sister. No, that's not what outrageous love is. Outrageous love is outrageous. It's outrageous. I'm willing to put it all on the line, but it doesn't mean for most of us jumping on the subway tracks, right? But it means showing up beyond your comfort zone. It means showing up and resourcing with your time. Shows up. I'm going to give you another example. I'm going to give you one more example. We're going to close with this, okay? So, see if I can show this to you. See if I have it here. Do I have it here? I don't, but I'm going to try and describe it to you anyways. There's something in the Hebrew wisdom lineage, right, which is called phylacteries. And they are these black leather instruments that you wrap on your hand. You can look them up in English. They're called tefillin, Teffilin, tefillin, phylacteries. And they've been passed down in the lineage for like 3,200 years. And part of my personal practice is that I wear them every day for the last, few decades. And it's my private practice, and in my public life, I'm a global citizen and I hope a galactic citizen. I think that's what we need to be. But in my practice, I also practice in the lineage of the original masters of my life. Now, I'm not wealthy. As a matter of fact, I'm probably poor by any definition of funding. And I just bought this pair of, they're called a pair because there's two sets. There's one you wear on your head. There's another you wear on your arm. And I just bought this very, very, very expensive pair that was like $1,500. And I was really excited, to have it. And then I was giving a talk at an event run by a colleague of mine at the time, Eben, called MetaMind. And there was a brilliant musician there. And he comes to me and we start talking and he says, I was born into that same lineage you were, and I lost connection to it. And I have this desire, right, that I want to connect to it. And I said to him, like literally without missing a beat, it was just obvious to me. I said, wow, I just bought this beautiful pair of what are called phylacteries, tefillin, leather straps. It's a beautiful ritual. And I'm sure that I bought them for you. Let me show you how they work. And I gave them to him. Man, he took them and he received them. And we put them on. And they've been with him since. And I think someone might have sent me online someplace where he told the story. I've never seen him again. But those were his. It was clear as day to me. It wasn't, those were his. Right? That's what outrageous love means. Outrageous love means we step up for each other, right? And we show up for each other, and we show up full on outrageously. Outrageously. It's not ordinary. It's a willingness to show up with outrageous love, right? There was a time, and it's got to do with finances. There was a time in my life where I was making a lot of money when I was in Israel, because I was just doing a lot of speeches, and I met a friend. And that friend needed $60,000. And at that time in my life, I happened to have about $60,000 in the bank. He needed it more than I did. I wrote him a check for $60,000. End of story. True. That's how you have to live. You have to live outrageously, not irresponsibly, but outrageously. Write a check of your smile. Write a check of your open heart. Write a check of your love. Right? Write a check of your attention. Write a check of the way you show up. But there's a check that you need to write every day. And that check has your signature on it. And that check is your outrageous act of love. Because that's what an outrageous lover does. An outrageous lover commits outrageous acts of love. And here's the crazy thing. It's the most healing thing you can do. The most healing, transformative act you can do in your life is to commit outrageous acts of love, not as a one-time event, but as part of the fabric of your life. I am an outrageous lover. And most of those acts may be symbolic. You can't give giving people $60,000 every day because you're out of money, at least for me, in a day. But your life becomes part of a fabric, which is part of the outrageous love of the universe that's moving uniquely through you. And the way you listen is outrageous. The way you forgive is outrageous. The way you take a stand is outrageous. But you live in that place of outrageous. And as you access the energy of the rage, but then you transmute the rage into love. In other words, the outrageous stops being outrageous anger, but that same rejection of the status quo, which lives in The prophetic rage then becomes love. And the prophets are described as the erotic maiden who is the mad lover of Song of Songs. So the prophet in the lineage is called the Bat Melech, the daughter of the king, the mad lover. The prophet is the one who in her body, in his body, she loves madly. He gives her radiance. She shows up. She walks into a room and she says, not what can I get out of this room, but what can I pour into this room? We walk into rooms and we say, what can I get out of this room? What did I get out of this broadcast? What would it mean to pour my energy, subtle energy into this broadcast? And oh my God, and we can actually feel it exploding in the space, right? To be an outrageous lover is to commit outrageous acts of love. And next week, we're going to talk about all about outrageous acts of love and what does it mean we're going to commit to each other outrageous acts of love. But for now, let me just close with this and we go to prayer, right? Evolution is love in action. And my hands are the hands of evolution. My hands are the hands of God. And my feet are the feet of God. And my embodiment is the embodiment of the divine. And I live to be outrageous love. And I live to commit outrageous acts of love, not that take down my life, that expand my life, that make me alive. And every single day, I want to weave together a tapestry of outrageous love. And you got to do it uniquely. There's a way to do it in your life. But when you do that, you get healthier, you get stronger, you get more alive, you get more filled with joy, you get more aligned with your true nature. And we begin to play our instrument in the unique self symphony, not as Homo sapien who's trying to figure out, what can I get out of this, right? Have I gotten enough from this person that they deserve my love? Actually become an outrageous lover. I'm going to show up just because, right? Sometimes you meet someone every once in a long while. You can't do it often. You meet someone, you say, I'm going to show up for this person just because, right? Can't do that with everyone. Can't do it a lot, but once in a while, I'm going to show up just because I'm in. Outrageous love. It's the only truth. We live in a world of outrageous pain, right? The only response to outrageous pain is outrageous love. And our outrageous love includes all of our holy and broken hallelujah. And our ultimate prayer, Leonard Cohen, Leonard Cohen's song, The Holy and Broken Hallelujah, is the prayer we do every week. Our only prayer is, can I turn all of my holy and broken hallelujahs into poetry, into outrageous love, into the poetry of outrageous love. I show up just because. So take us inside. We're going to pray, right? And I'm going to invite everyone. And as the prayer happens, just to say, just to write in the chat box, I pray to show up as outrageous love. I pray to be an outrageous lover, or right, I'm mad as hell. I'm going to pour that outrage, however you're going to say it, but just show up, right? I am mad as hell. I'm an outrageous lover. Bring them together, right? Love is outrageous. Take us inside, right? The holy and the broken hallelujah to prayer. And let's pray in the chat box, right? As we see it, and all of us, right? In the inner gang, right? Show us how to do this, model this for us. Take us inside.
Now I've heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord. But you don't really care for music, do you? It goes like this: the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall, the major lift, the baffled king composing hallelujah. 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 Let's say I took the name in vain. I don't even know the name. But if I did, well really, what's it to you? There's a blaze of light in every word. It doesn't matter which you heard, the holy or the broken. Hallelujah. So I tried to touch. I've told the truth. I didn't come to fool you. And even though it all went wrong, I'll stand before the Lord of Song with nothing on my tongue but hallelujah.
Hallelujah. And I'm going to the chat box to read some of our beautiful prayers. Thank you so much. Katharina, or Utz is actually praying, I pray to show up as outrageous love. Benjamin, I am mad as hell and I am transmuting it into outrageous love. Suzette, I pray to show up as an outrageous lover and I am mad as hell and I'm committed to give mine to give with outrageous love. Ujis, mad love to everybody. Colin, praying my arrows are recognized as sweet pain. Kathy Bankston, I pray for all of us to show up and show our outrageous love. Raquel, I pray to grow strong roots that my rage may be rooted in ground and supported by the power of ground. And I'm scrolling through many, many, many more prayers. And thank you all for speaking your voice into the symphony. And we lift our prayers up to the sky. Thank you so much. Now I want to invite us all to actually practice committing an outrageous act of love right now together, because we here together have the power to resource our way into this planetary awakening, because every single person here is a unique expression within that awakening. So I want to encourage us, as we encourage each other, to resource our home, one mountain, many paths, which will help it to become a huge global collective symphony. So let's do that together. And I want to ask you to think for a moment what it actually means for you to become a member of something that is going to actually help awaken the entire planet, and then to fulfill your unique potential and make your unique contribution to it. And I know from my personal experience that there is no better place to give my gifts than this revolutionary home that we share here together. So let's take a look at how we can do that. If you go to onemountainmanypaths.org, and actually we're going to share the link right now also in the chat box, I want to invite you all to make your contribution to this revolution. And you can do that by becoming a member. Here on this page, you can see you can choose your own monthly contribution, whatever feels good to you, but also let's feel that invitation to actually go where it's uncomfortable. So whatever your outrageous acts of love is, please do make your contribution here, a monthly one. And if you don't want to become a member, you can actually click here and make a monthly, one-time donation. And I actually want to go on this journey together today and do that together with you. So let's click on the link in the chat box. If you're up for it, let's together pour our love into the source code right now. If you click on the link, you will find this page where you can choose your contribution, and I'm going to feel into my heart and feel that for me, what feels on the edge of the edge of the edge to give right now is actually giving $100. So I'm going to select that one, and I really trust on you to join me in this process right now. So let's click on that link, donate with PayPal, and then you can log in. This is my login to PayPal, and actually give your gift. So if you click on the link in the chat box, you can actually do that with me right now. And let's feel all of us together pouring our outrageous, outrageous, outrageous love into the source code together. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for joining. And again, if you are watching the replay, you can do the same process if you go to onemountainmanypaths.org, and here at the top, click on partnership, and that's where you will find everything you need to know about becoming a member. And again, if you can, please do choose a monthly contribution. That really helps grow One Mountain together. And if you do become a member, you also get access to these 9 beautiful, amazing, in-depth self-study courses, hours and hours and hours of amazing transmission that you can study on your own. And actually, these are courses from Dr. Mark Gaffney, but also a few of them are together with Barbara Marx Hubbard, like this one, Becoming a Future Human. So that is all very exciting. So please do sign up right after you are watching this. Thank you so much. And the last thing, of course, remember to sign up for Eros Mystery School, 5 days in heaven, I want to say, in a beautiful castle in Belgium, in Europe, spending 5 days together with a group of awesome revolutionaries. Every day is going to be deep dive Dharma like this. The topic, the theme is going to be the new phenomenology of Eros, which is a 12-volume book that is going to be published in the upcoming years. It's already been written by Dr. Mark Gaffney together with Dr. Christina Kincaid and some other key partners. So this is all very new and alive and exciting Dharma that we're going to be studying together in Eros Mystery School, 21st until 25th of August. And I can't wait to be together in person and hug and dance and party and study together. Thank you so much for your time, for your attention, for your love showing up here every week. And like we do every week, let's dance it out with a little revolutionary dance party. I think we're going to dance to Hey Brother, and we'll see each other on the other side. Thank you so much.